Thanks very much, Andy. Cool. Yeah. So hi, everybody. I'm Callum. I am the CEO at Linnworks. So we're a commerce automation platform. So what does that mean? We're a technology platform used by brands and retailers that helps them sell their products across multiple different channels across the internet, their website, marketplaces, social commerce channels, doing all that simultaneously from one dashboard, and then also connect together all of their commerce operations as well. So everything to do with inventory management, order management, shipping, again, into one central dashboard. So they have total commerce control at the center of their business.
Thank you, Bobby. Sorry about that. I stole your thunder slightly, but over to you.
Oh, hi. Sorry. Has everybody introduced themselves yet?
No, just Callum. So you take over from here and then get the rest to
Apologies, everyone. I was a few minutes late. Okay, so thanks, Andy. So the topic of our panel today is really looking at operational efficiency over peak. My name is Bobby Tulis. I'm Group Marketing Director for Global Freight Solutions, or GFS as we're known in the industry. For those of you that don't know us, we're the largest provider of multi-carrier services. So our job is to ship parcels anywhere in the world and also manage returns. Last year, we handled about 50 million parcels and we saw parcel volumes double as a result of COVID. So really peak is really a vital time. And I think we've got a fantastic panel, lineup of panelists here today. We're not retailers, but each of us together, we work with thousands of e-commerce businesses. And so we all see peak from different angles and we understand the different pressures that retailers face at this time of the year. So let me first start by asking you each to introduce yourselves. I think, Callum, have you already introduced yourself?
I will.
Okay. Ben, can I ask you to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Ben Kay. I'm a business development manager at the Access Group for our warehouse and order management system, Mintsoft. In short, Mintsoft is essentially an e-commerce focused warehouse and order management system tailoring to multi-channel sellers, online retailers, and 3PL warehouses as well, just helping them manage multiple clients and also, importantly, I guess, providing client access to that system so they can kind of see what's going on with their sort of outsourced provider as well.
Thanks, Ben. Kirsty, over to you.
Hiya, my name's Kirsty B. I'm head of marketing at Forter. Forter is the leader in online fraud and policy abuse prevention. We currently process over $250 billion of e-commerce transactions every year, and we work with global merchants like ASOS, Sephora, and Hugo Boss to help them increase their revenue. We protect against all forms of fraud and policy abuse, basically throughout the whole customer journey, from credit card fraud, chargebacks, returns abuse, item not received abuse, account takeover. And we also help merchants increase their conversion rates that have been impacted by PSD2 by helping them to secure all available exemptions and exclusions from PSD2.
Great, thanks, Kirsty. And finally, Matt, over to you.
Thanks, Bobby. Yeah, Matt Furno. I'm head of strategy and innovation at Loqate. If you've not heard of Loqate, we are the tech company that provide that clever little bit of software that at the back end of your checkout just enables your customers to enter their address in just a few keystrokes. And we do that for pretty much every country on Earth. It helps to drive conversion and helps to deal with the ever-growing problem of late and failed deliveries. We work with about 20,000 organizations worldwide, of which about 75% are retailers. John Lewis, Sainsbury's, Nike, Adidas, the list goes on. So happy to be here. Thanks, Bobby.
Fantastic. Okay, so this is about how, what can sort of insights and advice can we sort of share with retailers on how to prepare for peak? And I guess the logical start is always to look back at what's happened over the last 18 months. And I guess it's not so much what's happened, but what's not happened. When we think back, we've been hit by the e-commerce industry has been hit by COVID. We've seen 12 months 12 months of e-commerce sales go through in 6 months, double growth in twice the rate. We've seen parcel volumes double, so carriers, issues in the capacity in the networks, parcels being held at borders. We've seen so much. We've seen supply being disrupted, China, the factory of the world, being shut down, so consumers, struggling to get products that they're trying to get hold of. There's been so much change, and Brexit, we forget Brexit, and now VAT changes, and somewhere in between we even had peak, And phenomenally, peak, at least from what we saw, went incredibly smoothly, but not without a huge amount of, hard work and, issues going on in the background. So I guess the question is, from each of your perspectives, what have you seen as the key learnings over the past 12, 18 months that you would want to sort of share on this panel? So let me ask you first, Kirsty, if I may.
Sure. So as a representative of a company that prevents fraud and policy abuse, it might seem a little bit counterintuitive for me to say this, but what we've seen is that new customers, and there's been so many of them over the last 18 months, they're just not as risky or as fraudulent as many companies believe them to be. So our research has shown that first-time shoppers, so those customers that are coming to you for the first time, they're actually 5 to 7 times more likely to be declined by your fraud prevention tool than a returning customer. So it's not exactly the warm welcome that they were expecting. And 40% of those declined customers, they will never shop with you again. So you don't just lose the transaction itself that you've declined, but the total lifetime value of those customers, which is maybe 7 or 8 times the original basket value. And we've seen that losses to those falsely declined customers are actually 75 times larger than what companies are losing to fraud. So that's crazy. That's the good news. The new customers are not as risky as you think that they are. But where merchants will have seen an increase in abuse and revenue loss over the last 18 months is at the point of returns, seen a massive spike in item not received declarations, as well as more attempts at account takeovers and an increase in reseller and reshipper abuse. So a bit of good news and a bit of bad news for you there, Bobby.
No, that's really great. Thank you very much. Ben, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think one thing we've definitely learned is the ability to adapt over the last 18 months. As you say, I mean, even just looking at sort of peak and how smoothly that went, and obviously without, it wasn't just because we were ready for it at that time, we put a lot of changes and adaptations into that. So yeah, I think that's a really big one. We know that this is going to be, well, we've known for a while that it's going to be a sort of a bigger, longer peak than previous years. There's going to be more people buying more online now across our consumers as well, and starting earlier now as well, thanks to the sort of news coverage, I guess, on sort of driver shortage and the agenda around that, saying people are going to struggle to receive their orders. So I think, we're seeing people adapt to that already, by the way. So, pushing more volume through multiple sort of courier accounts, which is great, and obviously providing other sort of services around kind of dedicated delivery days and things like that as well, which is becoming sort of more popular, we're seeing as well with consumers. But I think just that ability and that sort of adaptive mindset, the ability to make sort of quick business decisions, that's been something we've all become very, very good at. I think that's obviously the key to all the success we have had, and I think it will be going forward for the sort of continued success, I guess, through the next peak.
True. I mean, definitely one of the words I kept hearing over, after lockdown, apart from unprecedented,
Yeah.
which was in every headline, was businesses having to literally pivot.
Mm-hmm.
From one day to the next, having to pivot and having to be so agile in order to just continue trading. Callum, what about you?
Thanks, Bobby. I think, from my perspective, past 18 months obviously been a time of huge learning for brands and retailers. I think the primary takeaway that I sort of observe is just brands and retailers really recognizing in this new world the extent of the expectation from the consumer on basically convenience. Like the language we're putting it to at Linnworks is this idea of like the rise of the effortless economy, the idea that consumers expect effortless commerce. And this is such kind of a strong trend driving the market. Everything is centering around consumer experience. Commerce is moving closer and closer to the consumer and happening increasingly on the consumer's terms. And so it's great for the consumer, but it creates a huge amount of challenge for brands and retailers. Like, how do I, as a brand and retailer, for example, make my product available for purchase wherever the customer is choosing to shop? Because I can't expect them just to shop in my store anymore. I need to make it available to them in all of the different digital environments they might be shopping in. So that, again, might be on my website, but it could be on a marketplace. It could be on a social commerce channel. And then I think that principle rings true again in the back end. So not only does the consumer expect people to buy the product in the environment where they want to shop, they want it delivered on their terms. They want that entire experience post-sale to be centered around their expectation. And so really, I think with the rise of the effortless economy, it's key. And I think the takeaway has been for brands and retailers understanding that convenience more so than ever is king. We ran some research ourselves at the start of the year. We surveyed over 1,000 shoppers across the UK and North America, and 76% of the respondents said that convenience was their top priority when selecting a retailer, like more so than price. So it really is about this kind of idea of frictionless commerce. And therefore, I think the learning as we go into peak around operations is how you essentially configure your organization in a way that means that you make it effortless for your customers, that you meet them where they're choosing to shop, that you deliver the type of post-sale experience that they expect, and means they'll come back to you time and time again.
And it's absolutely vital, that focus on the customer experience and the customer journey, not just being from the point of, coming onto your website to converting, buying online, but actually, as we've seen through research we've done with IMRG, the post-purchase delivery experience is absolutely vital, from when the customer comes to choose delivery options to them receiving their parcel and actually even returning it. They expect that to be entirely seamless. And, it's actually the second highest reason for cart abandonment rates after cost of product, which is, which again brings us back to this vital question, that having this robust, fail-safe operations is about customer experience, protecting the customer experience, isn't it? Making it effortless, as you say.
Absolutely.
Matt, what about you?
One of the challenges of going last is that most things have been said. I'm going to repeat some of Callum's sentiment.
No.
It's what Callum said could have almost been my answer, certainly around friction and UX and all of those challenges. I think going back to 2020, I was reminded, talking to the son of a friend of ours who's training to be a plumber, and he was describing that the worst part of his training is what they call live plumbing, which is effectively when they get you to fix something while they're firing a hose in your face of cold water. And you've got to try and have the wherewithal to fix this thing while you've got this cold water coming in your face. And I think that was kind of what was happening in peak 20. I don't think anyone really knew what was going on. And therefore you were having to just try and deal with things and events as they occurred in real time. And we were saying at the start of 21 is that looking forward into this peak, at least you kind of had some phases and you had some things to look back on and try and make sense of consumer behavior. I think what we've seen today is, every speaker is talking about the new shoppers online, their expectations last year, their expectations this year. And I think we saw some evidence in some holiday research that we did in 20 that there were kind of two conflicting sentiments going on among shoppers that we talked to in the US and Central Europe and the UK. There was some sympathy for retailers that they were struggling to keep up and doing all this stuff in real time. But equally, there was also real concern and negative sentiment towards, if they were buying gifts for loved ones that they couldn't go and visit because of restrictions. And if those gifts were delivered late or not at all, we were seeing almost upwards of 50% of people that we talked to were saying they wouldn't shop with a brand that didn't get a Christmas present or a Thanksgiving present delivered in time. So the stakes were really high.